I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Picture it. It's a Tuesday night.
Okay.
The house is finally quiet. The emails have stopped pinging. The notifications are silenced. And, the world has finally stopped demanding things from you.
Finally.
You're lying there next to your partner. Or maybe you're alone, just sitting with your own thoughts in the dark. And you reach for that feeling inside, that spark, that hum of energy, and you feel absolutely nothing.
Zero. Just a flat line.
Exactly. Not a flicker. And almost immediately, the silence gets filled. Not with desire, but with a question. That little voice in the back of your head starts the interrogation. It whispers, is something wrong with me? Is my body broken? Is the relationship dying? Did I lose the magic?
That internal monologue is probably the most universal yet isolated experience humans have. It's the sound of deep confusion when our lived experience just crashes headfirst into the story we've been told about how we're supposed to work.
And the story we've been told is pretty aggressive, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
We're sold this idea that desire is supposed to be this lightning bolt, this constant thrumming engine that runs in the background 24/7. So when it goes quiet, we don't just think we're tired, we think we're damaged.
Which is the tragedy of it, because what if the engine isn't broken? What if we've just been looking at the wrong set of blueprints entirely?
That is the exact question we are tackling today. We are doing a deep dive into the architecture of desire. And honestly, looking at the stack of research on the psychology of aliveness and intimacy, it completely flipped my script.
It's powerful stuff.
We're going to unpack why not being in the mood is actually a sign your body is working correctly, the tension between loving someone and wanting them, and the surprising truth about intimacy as we age.
It really is a fascinating shift. And I think the mission here isn't just to talk about sex. If we stay on the surface, we miss the whole point.
Right.
We need to deconstruct the myths that generate all this shame and reveal what desire actually is. Because if you look at the core definition we're working with today, desire isn't just about friction or biology.
That was my first aha moment in the reading. We usually pigeonhole desire as this purely functional biological drive, but the material describes it as the heartbeat of motivation.
Precisely. Think about that phrase, the heartbeat of motivation. It is that quiet I want that pushes us toward anything.
Yeah.
Pleasure, curiosity, closeness.
So anything at all.
Anything. If we zoom out, sexual desire is just one branch of a much larger tree. At its root, desire is the human need to feel alive.
The need to feel alive, that lands differently.
It should. It's the drive to be seen, to connect, to bridge the gap between ourselves and the world. So when people talk about a loss of desire, they aren't just talking about what happens in the bedroom. They are often talking about a disconnection from their own vitality.
I love that framing because it immediately takes it out of the medical clinic. It isn't just my libido is low, it's how do I want to feel alive today?
Yes.
But I want to push on the mechanics because philosophy is great, but people are struggling with the practical side. I think the biggest source of shame for people is this idea of the light switch.
The light switch myth. This is where most relationships just hit a wall.
Okay, so break this down for us. Because the cultural expectation, what we see in movies, what we hear in songs, is that if I'm attracted to you, I should be able to flip a switch and boom, I'm ready.
Instantly.
And if I'm not, the implication is that I'm not attracted to you anymore.
Right. And that model relies on what psychologists call spontaneous desire. It is the idea that the urge just strikes you out of the blue like a hunger pang. You're walking down the street, you see a pizza, you're hungry, you look at your partner, you want sex.
And to be fair, that does happen. I remember the beginning of my relationship, that was pretty much the standard operating procedure.
It does, usually at the very beginning of a relationship or for a percentage of the population, mostly young men. Statistically, that is their primary mode. But here's the kicker. For the vast majority of people, and especially in long-term relationships, regardless of gender, desire is not spontaneous.
Okay.
It is responsive.
Responsive meaning it's not a leader, it's a follower.
Exactly. It doesn't appear out of nowhere to initiate the action. It arises in response to stimulation and context.
Okay, but I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I can hear the listener asking, does that mean I have to force it?
Yeah.
Because responsive can sound a lot like passive or worse, like a chore. Like I have to talk myself into it.
That is such a crucial distinction. It is not about forcing. Think of it less like a light switch and more like a solar panel.
Oh, the solar panel.
The solar panel doesn't just decide to make electricity because it's noon. It needs the sun to be shining. It needs the right conditions to generate energy.
So in this analogy, the sun isn't just physical touch. It's not just technique.
No, and this is where the biology gets so interesting. The sun is the feeling of safety, connection, and emotional comfort. The research highlights this fascinating interplay between the inhibition system and the excitation system in the brain,
The gas and the brakes.
basically. We tend to think desire is purely about hitting the gas pedal hormones, blood flow, but the brain is the biggest sex organ, and it has a massive brake pedal.
The brake pedal being stress.
Stress, anxiety, shame, the unwashed dishes, the unresolved argument from 3 days ago. If the emotional brain senses threat or pressure, it stands on the brakes. It signals not safe right now.
So let's apply this to that Tuesday night scenario. You've had a brutal day at work. Your boss yelled at you. You're feeling disconnected from your partner, and they initiate something. You don't feel a spark.
Right.
The old script says, I'm broken, or I don't love them.
And the new script says, my inhibition system is doing its job.
It's a feature, not a bug.
Exactly. It is a protective mechanism. Your biology is saying the environment isn't safe for vulnerability right now. When you feel valued, when you feel emotionally seen, that system releases the brakes.
Which is huge,
Yeah.
because how many arguments start with, you don't want me, when the reality is, I don't feel safe enough to want anything right now.
Precisely. It shifts the conversation entirely. Instead of fix your body or take this pill, the conversation becomes, let's fix the context. How do we lower the stress? How do we increase the safety?
It sounds simple, but in practice it's tough. Because life is stressful. We can't just quit our jobs to improve our intimacy. And that brings us to the next big anxiety point, consistency. Or really, the lack of it.
A fluctuation.
Right? 1 week you're all over each other, the next week, nothing.
Yeah.
Silence. And we panic. We look for the reason. But the material uses this metaphor of the tide.
The tide is the perfect visualization because it challenges our demand for linearity. We have this sort of industrial machine-like expectation of our bodies that desire should be a straight, flat line, always available, always on.
But nature doesn't do straight lines.
Never. Nature works in cycles. High tide is full of energy, movement, crashing waves. Low tide is gentle, still receding. And we are part of nature. We are not machines.
But we treat low tide like a drought. We treat it like an emergency. We stand on the shore and wonder where the ocean went.
We pathologize the rest period. We think, oh no, the water is gone forever. But, psychological research has looked closely at this. There's a landmark study that found psychological and relationship factors are actually much better predictors of satisfaction than biological ones.
Wait, break that down. What does that mean for the average person struggling with this?
It means your testosterone levels or your estrogen levels are often less important than did you get enough sleep? Are you grieving something? Is there financial stress? These factors dictate the tides.
So if you're in a low tide, it isn't necessarily a permanent state of the relationship. It's just low tide.
Right. And here's the paradox. If you fight the tide, if you stand in the mud at low tide screaming at the ocean to come back, you just exhaust yourself. You create more stress, which hits the brakes even harder.
That's the shame spiral, isn't it?
It is.
If I'm tired, that's one thing. If I'm tired and I tell myself I'm a bad partner because I'm tired, that is a 10-pound weight to the problem.
And that weight is what actually kills the spark. It is rarely the lack of sex that destroys intimacy. It is the anxiety about the lack of sex.
Wow.
If you can accept that desire is fluid and adjusts to your life's current rhythm, you stop adding shame on top of the quiet periods. You just wait for the tide to turn.
I want to pivot to something that feels a bit more dangerous, or at least it's a harder truth to swallow. We've talked about safety and comfort being the sun for the solar panel, but there is a section in our research notes about the paradox of familiarity.
Yes, this is where it gets tricky.
Because the sources talk about the difference between love and lust, and they seem to suggest these two things are almost enemies, or at least they want different things.
Enemies might be too strong, but they certainly have opposing needs. This is the classic conflict in long-term relationships.
Okay.
Love, deep attachment-based love, is about safety. It is about knowing someone has your back, predictability, comfort. It is the warm blanket.
We all want the warm blanket. That's why we get married or commit to people.
We do. We crave it. But desire is not a warm blanket. Desire thrives on the opposite.
It needs mystery.
It needs mystery. It needs novelty. It needs a gap to bridge.
You can't want something that you already have completely.
Exactly. If there is zero distance, there is zero desire. If you are merged with your partner, if you finish each other's sentences, wear the same tracksuits, and know exactly how they floss their teeth, you have maximized safety, but you may have accidentally suffocated the mystery.
That is actually kind of terrifying. It feels like a trap. We work so hard to get close to someone, to build that safety, and in doing so, we kill the very thing that brought us together.
It is a paradox, but it is not a trap. It just requires a different strategy. The mistake people make is thinking that to get the mystery back, they need a new partner, someone unknown.
Right.
That is the easy fix for novelty.
The affair. The fresh start.
Right. But the solution the research points to is cultivating curiosity about the partner you already have.
Okay, but how do you do that practically? If I've been with someone for 15 years, I know their stories. I know their jokes. I know their coffee order. How do I manufacture mystery?
You have to realize that you actually don't know everything about them. You think you do, but that is an illusion of memory. You have to reintroduce what the experts call healthy distance.
Give me an example.
It can be as simple as having separate hobbies or social circles. When you go away into your own world and come back, you have something new to share. But it is also about perspective.
Okay.
There is this powerful exercise where you watch your partner in their element, maybe engaging with other people at a party or doing their job or playing music.
Watching them when they aren't looking at you.
Yes. Watching them not as my husband or my wife or the co-parent, but as a separate, autonomous human being who is impressive to others.
That shifts the lens. You stop seeing them as an extension of yourself, like an arm or a leg, and you see them as a stranger again. A stranger you happen to know really well.
Exactly. Appreciation and curiosity act as the bridge across that safety. They reintroduce the novelty without sacrificing the trust. You have to step back to see the whole picture.
I love that image. Step back to see. Now, speaking of timelines and long-term relationships, I want to fast forward because there's this pervasive joke in society. You see it in movies, sitcoms, that basically says, desire is for the young.
The expiration date myth.
Right. Once you hit a certain age, the lights go out, the shop is closed.
This is one of the most stubborn myths, and frankly, it is one of the most damaging.
But the data in the deep dive says the exact opposite.
It does. There have been extensive studies regarding adults in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s. And the reality is that many of them are having incredibly fulfilling sexual lives.
I read that section and I literally smiled. But digging into the details, it isn't just that they are still doing it, it's how they are doing it. The texture of it changes.
That is the key. The what might change, but the quality often improves. Think about desire in your 20s. It is often frantic. It is wrapped up in performance and validation.
Oh, totally.
Am I doing this right? Do I look good? Does this person like me?
High anxiety desire. You're auditioning for the role of good lover every time.
Exactly. But as we age, the definition of intimacy shifts. It moves away from performance and, gymnastics and toward connection, laughter, and comfort in one's own body.
So less worrying about the camera angles, more focusing on the feeling.
Yes. And here is the surprise. Some older adults report higher satisfaction than they did in their youth.
Really? Higher?
Yes, because they finally know what they want, and more importantly, they feel free to ask for it. They have shed the scripts they thought they had to follow. They aren't trying to impress anyone anymore.
That is so empowering. It reframes aging completely. It isn't a loss of desire. It is desire getting wiser.
Desire getting wiser. I like that. It is a shedding of the unnecessary noise.
So if we zoom out and look at this timeline we've built, from the responsive desire of our daily lives to the shifting tides of stress to the evolution of aging, it seems like the one constant here is change.
That is the fundamental truth. The language of desire changes as we move through life. And the suffering comes when we try to force the old language onto the new reality.
Can we unpack that metaphor? The changing language.
Think about it like this. In your 20s, desire might speak the language of discovery. It is new. It is exploring the map. It's loud and bright. But later in life, that flame doesn't go out. It changes color. It starts speaking the language of peace or deep presence or unspoken understanding.
I think that is where so much pain comes from in relationships. We try to force our 40-year-old desire to speak our 20-year-old language, and when it doesn't, we think we have gone mute.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We judge our current reality against a past memory. The reframing question shouldn't be, what is wrong with me? Or why isn't it like it used to be?
So what should it be?
The question should be, what does my desire need right now?
What does my desire need right now? That is such a practical tool.
Yeah.
Because the answer might not be sex.
Right. The answer might be sleep, or a hug, or adventure, or I need to be listened to for 10 minutes without you looking at your phone.
Because remember, going back to the beginning, desire is a mirror.
It reflects how safe, seen, and alive you feel inside. If the reflection is blurry, you don't smash the mirror, you don't blind the mirror, you look at what is standing in front of it.
That connects back to that Tuesday night we started with. That internal monologue asking, is it me? The answer is, well, it is you, but not in the way you think.
Yeah.
Is your humanity.
It is. Desire is fluid because we are fluid.
Yeah.
It is responsive because we are responsive beings living in a complex, stressful world. It isn't defined by gender stereotypes. Men having high drives, women having low drives. Those are cultural myths, not biological absolutes. It is defined by the human condition.
This has been such a refreshing look at this. It takes the pressure off. It feels like we can finally exhale. We've covered the myth of the light switch and replaced it with the solar panel. We've talked about respecting the tides rather than fighting them. We've looked at the dance between safety and mystery and the wisdom that comes with aging.
And if there is one thing I hope listeners take away, it is that your desire, or lack thereof, is a valid form of communication. It is telling you something about your state of being.
So instead of ignoring it or medicating it or fighting it, we should be listening to it.
Precisely. Treat it with curiosity, not judgment.
I love that. Okay, before we wrap up this deep dive, we always like to leave you with something to chew on, something that takes these ideas and pushes them just a little bit further.
We have talked a lot about desire as a response to the world around us, to our partners, to stress, to safety, but I want to leave you with this thought. If desire is the language of feeling alive, and if that language changes as we grow, what is your desire trying to tell you about who you're becoming right now? Not who you were 10 years ago, but who you are becoming.
Who you are becoming. That is a powerful place to end. Listen to the quiet I want. It might be leading you somewhere important. Thanks for diving in with us.
Until next time.